I said it before and I'll say it again.
That scene, that last scene.
What does it mean?
I'm the dude, you know?
Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot.
That final scene
Starts now.
Hello everyone, this is Sophie and you're listening to episode 3 of the That Final Scene podcast, where we talk about some of the best and worst final scenes in film history. Today you're in luck because we're going to be talking about one of the better ones, the final scene of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm joined by my co-hosts Ben and Simon. Say hi to our listeners.
Hello. We got to the magic number. We got to number 3.
Yeah,
without
love
being booted off the internet. That's nice.
Ben, you know your Christopher Nolan quote from episode 1 is kind of going viral on Instagram right now.
I feel like everybody's coming at me on the internet.
What was it again?
That The Prestige is Christopher Nolan's best film and that I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. No, actually, I didn't say I'd fight anyone that says otherwise, but people have said that. People have kind of been really gotten behind it, which I'm quite happy about because it's a great movie.
And also, Simon, what you said about weird science and that boob scene about not registering because when you were a kid made a couple of our listeners laugh out loud.
I saw that comment. The guy was just like, yeah, I remembered that. And then I saw the film again. I was like, oh my God, boobs.
It is slightly rude. It's unexpected when you watch it again.
Well, I've told you, I think I told the story the last time about, me watching GoldenEye and having all those bits cut out and being like, how did I not know this was in the movie?
Do you have any like that?
No, I don't think so. Nothing that comes to mind.
I find it quite a lot with TV shows, stuff like The Simpsons and Friends that I go back and watch now and you're like, I didn't realize that was a dick joke, or, you kind of notice things that you didn't notice before.
I remember when I was a kid, my sister had some friends over and they watched Forrest Gump.
God, what if Forrest Gump have I missed?
We used to have a TV in the lounge that was connected to a video player in another room, and her and her mates were watching the video in the other room on that TV, but they didn't know that we were also watching the same feed. And when the naked scene came on with Tom Hanks in it, they rewound it about 5 times and tried to freeze frame the cock shot. And me and my mum and dad were like, what? and they didn't know we could see.
I am 99% sure that there isn't a cock shot.
Yeah, I feel like it's a different film.
Knock, knock. This is the Total Recall bot. Sophie is indeed correct. There is no actual Tom Hanks cock shot in Forrest Gump. At 24 minutes into the movie, Tom Hanks is seen drying his intimate region in the background of the shot.
You sure they weren't watching, what's the Tom Cruise one where he slides in? Jerry Maguire, when he slides in his underwear. Is that Jerry Maguire when he slides in his underwear?
We're not doing a very good job.
No, I'm not doing a good job. But are you sure it wasn't that and they were trying to get the freeze frames ooh, I can see his bum. Oh.
Yeah, but I can't think of anything inappropriate, but I do rewatch a lot of stuff now that looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that was so sexist. That was so racist. I feel like a lot of films and TV shows have been ruined.
Well, what was the one that we watched at your house?
Oh, Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse. How on earth do any of these films get made? I remember Simon having a discussion with one of Simon and I used to work together, one of our American colleagues about why it was called Roadhouse, and Simon was adamant that it's called Roadhouse because it's about a house beside the road. You thought it was called Roadhouse because someone drove over a house in a monster truck. So
that's right.
That's why it's called Roadhouse, because the house is in the middle of the road and it gets driven over.
Sounds like a thriller.
It's really good.
What is it?
It's steamy, it's exciting, It's got Patrick, it's got a love interest.
So 9.5 weeks vibes, steamy.
No, Patrick Swayze plays a hard bouncer that gets drafted into this town to clean up this dirty club. And in cleaning up this place, he riles up the local gangsters.
Sounds amazing. I'm gonna watch it. Cool. On a serious note, though, I know we've had quite a few people reach out to us sharing their suggestions for the podcast. And even though I feel like there needs to be a mix of conscious programming and intention, because if I'm honest, I know I don't want to talk about anything that I don't actually care about. And I feel like this is one of the reasons that I'm doing this with you, because I feel like you come from the same place. But one of the things that people talked about or suggested was a short news section in the beginning. And for the record, we would love to, but it takes us about a week to put these episodes out. So if you're looking for a slightly outdated news section, then we can do that. But I don't think that's what you're looking for. So we can definitely make sure that, we do talk about anything that's newsworthy or feels important. Like we did talk about CinemaCon on episode 1. obviously the Cannes Film Festival is taking place right now. We are not there, so we can't speak about any of the films that came out. I did
Shockingly, we didn't get an invite to Cannes.
next year. It's
Yeah,
happening.
next year.
I'm gonna get us in. Even though I did hear that the new Cronenberg film, The Crimes from the Future,
Oh, yeah.
had a lot of walkouts, but also really massive standing ovation. So
Yeah, I heard a lot of people talking about that. I think Cronenberg himself said, people are going to walk out of this movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones. But then I read a review that said it's not as bad as that statement makes it out to be. Like him saying everybody, like, we're going to have a lot of people walk out, makes it sound like it's this really like intense, really graphic kind of film. But
Yeah.
actually it's not as bad as it's being made out to. And actually it's a really interesting kind of look at like the human body and how we kind of treat it and how it will be treated in the future.
it sounds like, from what I've heard as well, it sounds like it's very much him, but it's people are saying that it's very much like retro, like early Cronenberg in a way. So it's not like he deviated from his work. It's just more extreme version of him. So yeah, I'm excited. Even though I'm not a massive body horror fan, I have to say. But I mean, for him, I would.
Yeah, it wouldn't massively be the genre that I'm like, I gotta see that every weekend. But I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to see what it's like. I read the review. I know the Elvis biopics just premiered there as well.
Yes.
Which I was interested to see, and then I started reading the reviews, and a lot of it's gotten quite a mixed one. But
Very
again,
polarized.
it got
Yeah,
a
well,
really I was reading the list of like the longest standing ovations in Canada. It got a 12-minute standing ovation at the end.
What?
How come people
Yeah.
clap for 12 minutes? Like I've tried. Yeah,
I went to the theater last week, and no, we didn't stand up for 12 minutes at the end of it, and that was a live performance.
I mean, I've done London Film Festival a couple of times, and they also do standing ovations there, like during the premieres. But after 2 minutes, like your hands go numb. I just don't know how you can clap for 12 minutes straight. So kudos to the industry and the critics that actually.
They must have really enjoyed the Elvis.
They must
film.
have really enjoyed that Elvis film. Cool. And very quickly, unsurprisingly, a lot of our listeners have asked for conversations around indie filmmaking and for us to talk about, the underrepresented, the overlooked, the underappreciated. So we can't reveal too much yet, but we are taking that into account. We're going to have a couple of interviews that we are lining up for you. And we're also going to be in the Sundance London edition, which I'm also excited about.
There's some cool stuff coming up over the next few weeks. Yeah, obviously we don't want to tease it too much.
Not too much.
Just for your information, Sarah has confirmed it was Forrest Gump, and there is a naked scene in it.
Oh wow, okay. Thank you, Sarah.
Ben, we need to rewatch that film
Yeah.
because...
And I need to watch it frame by frame.
This is why she got the Oscar. I mean, she got an Oscar for it, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's what you get. Cool. Let's talk recommendations very quickly. I have watched a lot of TV shows recently, but what have you guys been watching?
Well, we're recording on the day that Obi-Wan Kenobi's been released, the latest Disney Plus series. Don't laugh at the name Obi-Wan Kenobi, Simon. So I've basically just spent the last week just watching all of the prequels and the original Star Wars trilogy. Which I very
Really?
much enjoyed, yeah. Yeah,
How was
I watched
that like?
two. Great. I mean, I love them. I think
All of them?
Yeah. Would you know what? I was talking to someone and they said they recently did all of the movies, like over a weekend, from Phantom Menace all the way through to Rise of Skywalker and all the ones in between. And he was saying, I was like, oh yeah, like I really liked it except for the first two, Phantom Menace and Clone Wars. But for me, it's the last two that I just can't rewatch. I can't rewatch Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker because I just don't. Whereas for me, there's like, and this is definitely like the nostalgia thing of cinema. Watching Phantom Menace and Clone Wars, I'm like, I remember seeing this in the cinema as a child and absolutely being blown away by it. And so I still have that kind of nostalgic feeling for it. Yeah, they're not the strongest written films in the world, but actually, they've aged pretty well. I saw Ewan McGregor made a really interesting comment of like, loads of people complained at the time that it wasn't like the originals. And he was like, well, George didn't want to make them like the originals. They wanted to be different. And I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing. Yeah, I really enjoy going back and watching the early ones as well. Like A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, as science fiction goes, two of the best science fiction films ever made. Like they're just brilliant. They are so good. And even Return of the Jedi, even though it gets a bit weird when they bring in all the Ewoks and all that kind of stuff, it's still a great film, and it's a really solid end to a really good trilogy. But yeah, so that's what I've been watching. And I watched the first episode of Kenobi today, and I quite enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to watching more of that.
I love the early ones. I struggled a bit with the chemistry of Portman and Hayden Christensen in the new ones. I just felt like they weren't working on screen for me, but
that's an interesting relationship. I mean, you kind of just watch it for Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor's relationship, which is why I think they brought him back. A lot of people were saying that they hadn't even planned to bring Hayden Christensen back anyway, and there was obviously a big push for it. And they had, especially in Revenge of the Sith, like they have brilliant chemistry. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see what they do with it. And you know, after the Boba Fett series, which fell a little bit flat for me, I think they're onto a good push. And they've just had the big Star Wars Day thing. Yesterday they had a big convention in the States where they just premiered loads of trailers and stuff like that. So they've set out their stall for what's going. Jude Law's just been announced as he's going to be starring in a series. So.
Sold.
Yeah.
Anything with some Jude,
Old J-Laws.
Makes me think of The Holiday.
Oh, what a film.
The Holiday in Space.
Simon, I know you got a really exciting double bill to share.
Yeah.
You've been watching...
Well, I treated myself to another viewing of Beverly Hills Cop 1.
So good.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. My favourite scene is where they're in the art gallery.
Which we have a clip from in the intro.
Yeah, the intro has a clip from it. And there's a character called Serge. The character's played by Bronson Pinchot. And I found out a bit of trivia about Beverly Hills Cop, actually, that I didn't know, that the film was originally not going to be a comedy at all, and it was written for Sylvester Stallone. It was a tough Italian-American character who was going to play the Axel Foley part. And that all fell through for some reason. And then Eddie Murphy was brought in. And the whole film became this almost like an ad-libbed comedy. And, well, the amazing chemistry between the actors generates this palpable camaraderie that you just buy into all the way through the film, and it holds your interest. And the scene in the art gallery is where there's this side character called Serge, who's this camp art gallery manager.
I'm fine. My name is Serge, and how can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Miss Jenny Summers.
It's very busy today. Maybe you give me your name?
My name's Axel Foley.
And what it's pertaining?
I didn't understand what you said.
Pertaining, what it's meaning, regarding.
Oh, what's it regarding? I'm an old acquaintance of hers.
Donny? One moment. Donny, run and tell me, Summers, that Mr. Ahmed Foley is here to see...
Axel Foley. Axel.
Axel. Foley is here to see her. He's an old acquaintance. I see you look at this piece.
Yeah, I was wondering how much something like this went for.
$130,000. Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. It's serious because it's very important piece.
Have you ever sold one of these?
Sold it yesterday to a collector. Get the fuck out of here! Serious, I said it myself.
That's just such a good scene. Does that character come back in the second or third
I
one?
think he comes back in the third one only. He
One.
doesn't come back in the second one. And the third film's a bit of a disaster. That scene isn't quite what I thought it was, because Bronson Pinchot actually modelled that character on a rude Israeli makeup artist lady he met on a previous film.
It's one that I'm going to have to go back and rewatch. I haven't watched Beverly Hills Cop in so long.
And the soundtrack's insane.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's very literal. I've got a couple of clips to show this. For example, when the heat is on.
The heat is on.
That's your Sunday soundtrack.
Nice.
When he's driving around Beverly Hills and he doesn't want to get stopped. I love it.
Dreamy.
So what have you watched, Sophie, then?
Yeah, as I said, I've been watching a lot of TV. I finally caught up to Better Call Saul. So I watched the mid-season finale. And I don't know, I feel like I'm no longer in the minority when I say I think Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad, and that's my hot take.
Okay.
I know, Ben, you have mixed feelings about it because you've only watched season one.
Yeah, I've only watched the first season. Yeah. But then it's kind of hypocritical because I always say about Breaking Bad, when I watched it, I really struggled through the first two seasons, and then season 3 for me was when it kicked on. So actually, I need to go back and give it the time. I keep telling myself just go back and do it. But when I watched Breaking Bad, I was in uni and I had lots of time to do absolutely nothing, so I could binge watch TV.
I love it for so many reasons, but generally I just find the writing even more sharp.
Is it still old Vince Gilligan writing
Yes, yeah, which is what I think makes it so good, because I feel like you can tell that Gilligan took what he learned from Breaking Bad and just kind of let that evolve for the better in Breaking Bad. Like, you see the cinematography as well. I mean, he's very closely involved with that. It's much more ambitious. Like, the camera work is much more inventive.
It's refined almost from Breaking Bad.
Absolutely. And then you have Kim, I mean, the co-star in a way, who's such an incredible... I don't want to say Machiavellian because I'm giving away too much, but she's just like, her character progression is much more interesting compared to
Skylar.
Yeah, which I felt like the female characters in Breaking Bad for the most part were very annoying, and I don't see that in Better Call Saul, and I find that very refreshing. From the beginning, I would say even from season 1, you can see all of these plot lines that have been simmering for years, and then this final season, everything goes boom. Just boom, like everything explodes.
Wait, but you said mid-season finale before.
Yeah, it's mid-season finale.
So
like,
this isn't the end of the end?
The end of the end is in August. So it's taking a break for a few months, like weeks.
They did that with the final season of Breaking Bad as well. They did, I think, like 4 or 5 episodes, and then they do basically a cliffhanger, and then it comes back a few months later. It's all filmed and stuff and ready to go. But they just wait, and then they release it. Yeah. That's the time to binge it. That's what I did with Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Between the mid-season finale and the finale, I binged all 5 seasons.
You guys need to catch up on Better Call Saul, so we can do like a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, like final scene kind of.
Let's do it.
Breakdown. Okay, so it's happening in August. And then secondly, very quickly, I've been watching. I've been catching up on Love, Death, and Robots season 3. So it's an anthology. It's a collection of animated short series. It's created by David Fincher and Tim Miller. It's on Netflix. It has 3 seasons. The season 3 just came out. It's no secret that when season 1 came out, I was very vocal about it on my page because I really hated season 1. I found it to be super problematic. I felt like if you were a female character in season 1, you were either murdered, assaulted, raped, or fetishized. They were just like, I just had a very hard time watching it. And I know a few women and girls on my page had a very similar experience. So I skipped season 2, but I caught up on season 3, and I'm very glad that I did because I feel like the show really matured thematically and feels like it really found its true voice, and like it's visually so stimulating. It's about the incredible work that has taken place behind the scenes in terms of like animation, production, that sort of thing. And I'm gonna rank the episodes on my page, but a couple of favorites have been The Very Pulse of the Machine, Bad Traveling, and Night of the Mini Dead, which is like brilliant. So check out season 3 of Love, Death, and Robots.
Cool.
What's this?
It's a movie.
No!
Oh, I liked it.
No!
Can I say something?
No!
I don't get it.
What don't you get about it?
We asked people on the Instagram page a quite personal question, but as always, they deliver some incredible answers. When was the last time you saw yourself in a character? Daniela said, a few weeks ago when I watched The Worst Person in the World, I saw Julie and it was like seeing me, that feeling of feeling a little lost in every aspect of your life, but still enjoy the process of it, even with mistakes included. And then Emily also said, I watched The Worst Person in the World a couple of weeks ago, and oh my God, do I ever feel like Julie sometimes, always wanting more and waiting for life to start. Wow. I do feel those comments. The Worst Person in the World did something quite unique in terms of taking that, very classic genre of rom-com and really turned it on its head. It's almost like a perverted version of a rom-com. And I think a lot of people resonate with Julie and her character in particular because she's self-destructive. She doesn't she's very uncomfortable around intimacy. She just wants to have her fun, quote unquote, but at the same time, she's just self-sabotaging every step of the way. And I know I've been there. I don't think I can relate to her right now at this point in my life, but I can see how that character is very relatable.
Whenever I find I resonate with someone, it's always the ones that kind of take me by surprise. And I noticed this in some of the comments is that I always think the ones that resonate the most are when you see a character and you go, holy shit, that's how I feel. You don't think you're going to feel like that. You go into The Worst Person in the World and you're like, oh, I'm going to see this rom-com and stuff. And then halfway through, you just it snaps and you go, they say something or, they make a speech or whatever, they have an argument and you go, oh, that's how I've been feeling. And you just kind of have that, that's me. And it's amazing.
Because you're right. It's like you're feeling seen, but you weren't expecting to be seen.
'Cause
it's
it's-
that kind
you
of
didn't know what
unmasked
it was.
expectation, right? You're like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, films can do this great thing of they can articulate your feelings in a way that you didn't know was possible. And that sounds like kind of what I'm saying is like they've gone to see that film and they've just gone, oh shit, okay, that's what I do, or that's how I feel.
Yes.
I've never had that with anything else, like only with like film and stuff.
Cool. Moving on to another comment. Johnny from Come On, Come On. That was my favorite film of 2021. Johnny was played by Joaquin Phoenix. You should watch that film. The importance of the relationship between an uncle and his nieces or nephews. That's sweet. Rusty Cole from True Detective Season 1.
Interesting. I saw that one, yeah.
Yeah. There's something in the poetic hollowness of his character becoming a vessel to be emptied, to be filled. Is every single one of my followers a poet?
Pretty deep.
Sounds like it, yeah.
It's also quite honest
That
as well.
line.
Yeah.
It's
Because
very
also Rusty
specific.
Cole's a quite a dark character. Like that,
Yeah.
like that character in that first season of True Detective. I mean, the best thing about that first season of True Detective.
I can see why you can relate to that character though when you're in a very dark place in your life.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
a very
yeah.
nihilistic way of view, really. So vessel to be empty, to be filled.
Well,
So-
yeah, I just think that reminded me. He has, I think it's a couple of episodes in, but the episode ends with McConaughey's character giving this speech in the future to
So
the
good.
detectives, and it's like a 3 or 4 minute monologue, and it's incredible. Like every time I watch it, I sit there, I literally just sit there in silence and just watch the screen because it's brilliant.
We had a couple of people talk about Charlie from The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Justin says, he and I share the exact same sense of social awkwardness, plus he puts others' needs before he is a bit too much. I can relate to that.
I'd say a lot of people can relate
Yes.
to that. Yeah.
Pre-Young said, right now when I'm watching Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory talking about sterilizing the people who believe in long-distance relationships.
Amazing.
That's so good.
That's intense. It's like you don't relate to a character, but you're like, they say one thing and you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
how
you
I-
can
that's
relate
what I
to
think.
elements of characters. Can't
Yeah.
you can see flashes of yourself.
Because
in different
Sheldon's a
people.
difficult character to relate to because he is kind of socially awkward, but that statement is
But you
just-
can relate certain
yeah.
moments and certain opinions that he may have that are fairly controversial. in a
Yeah,
way.
exactly. Like The Prestige being Christopher Nolan's best film.
Yes, exactly. Some of my favorites, this one is going to make me cry, but I'm going to give it a go. Someone said, Officer K from Blade Runner 2049, he's literally me. Besides the literally me meme, I've related to Officer K deeply on many aspects. One, being his subtle desperation for genuine love and connection, and his want to be human. Two, for his selfless acts, even when he's left with nothing. He decided to throw his life away for something bigger. Three, for his loneliness and the internal emotional struggle he had as he was empty as a replicant and the way he suffers in silence. His want for his place and who he is and what he is, plus there were scenes that eerily were similar to what happened to me before seeing the movie. And as someone also who is autistic, I feel deeply for his want of being seen, as someone and knowing his place in the world. I just can't, like, I
Wow.
feel like I just want to,
That's
like,
incredible,
print
yeah.
this and just put it in a poster.
That's a very thoughtful piece of writing.
That's incredible. We should do that. We should do Blade Runner 2049 for an episode.
Yeah. Even though I don't remember the final scene very well. Oh yeah, no wait, I remember it. I remember the show, but it's like it doesn't have
In the
dialogue.
snow.
It doesn't have dialogue.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it now. And yeah, finally, we also had a couple of people talk about characters from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, I didn't see those.
Yes. So my friend Dom says he felt like The Rock from the film, which is weirdly
Yeah.
relatable.
That was easily my favorite
Yeah.
scene.
Yes. And finally, a follower shared with us Evelyn from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Every day she thought about what could have been, confused, barely getting by, having a kind and loving partner, but not being able to be content with him, not having control over her life. And even though I'm just 20, I knew exactly what she was feeling. Now I know we should try to cherish whatever good thing we comes by in our lives, but even that needs some time getting used to because of the gap that exists between the good things.
That's amazing.
I'm still figuring out how to maintain my kindness in those in-betweens of the withdrawal of happiness, and I bet Evelyn would have also had to learn this like I am trying to.
That's
incredible.
profound.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's
insane.
20.
Because just a second
She's
ago we were
20.
debating how you sum up that film, but in fact that
Yeah.
comment perfectly
That
sums up
sums
the
it up.
film.
It's
Yeah.
one of the biggest messages that I
Yeah.
took away from the film. It was a really intense experience to have to think of all the
Of all the
alternative
different-
versions of
yeah.
you. Like, should you have chosen something else at some point in your life? It's literally like, how would my life have turned around if I'd stayed in Greece?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just
Reminds me of that film Sliding Doors.
Oh yeah, fuck that film. But yes, yes.
I loved it.
I know, but Gwyneth Paltrow. The better Sliding Doors is called Mr. Nobody, and it's with Jared Leto and Diana Kruger. It's a 2009
Ooh.
film.
Not seen that.
Yeah.
Before Jared Leto. got
Before
a bit
Jared
annoying.
Leto, sold out. It's an incredible film, and if you want like the public stamp of approval, I think right now on IMDb it has something like 8.2.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just an indie proper gem. So
Cool.
Oh, look, a message from our sponsor.
G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it.
Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this?
Without much further ado,
Here we go again.
shall we dive in to the final scene of the film? Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool. I feel like before we talk about it, we actually have to somehow try to set up the film.
Should we have a turns each? Should we see who can?
I cannot. No.
Should we all try? Should we all have a go?
Well, as I said to
It will-
Simon on the way
will take
here, I
20
mean, my
minutes.
awful synopsis of the film is one woman's tax return goes horribly wrong. And that's a very terrible and vague description of the film.
I like that though. I think
mean,
it,
it
I
kind
think
of
it
is.
works.
It kind
I
of
think
works.
it works. Yeah.
Before we even go into just the generally talking about it, I have to say it's genuinely, and I don't know if Simon's going to agree with this, but I think Sophie will. I think it's the best film I've seen so far this year, and I will struggle to see anything better.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, has amazing. You talked about this, Simon. You didn't really like it, but I thought it had really great Matrix style kung fu sequences. It was bizarre, and then at the heart of it all is this really amazing like family drama that is so incredibly emotional. The amount of people sobbing in the cinema at the end of that film.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely cried at the end of it. The woman behind me was like, like almost like hyperventilating at the end of it because
I lost it too.
it's just incredible.
Let's try to make it more specific though, because I feel like there's a lot more to that. The journey of one daughter trying to find her way back to her mother in a way, because ultimately that's what it is. Obviously you have the elements of, Wayman, the husband, and then, the father. So you have the male figures that are, very strong, play very strong supporting roles, but ultimately it all comes back to the mother and daughter relationship. But for me in particular, and why I cried, it was less about Evelyn accepting Joy for who she is and that kind of like bit of a cheesiness like on top of that, which is fun. But for me, the element of how you show affection as a mom, for me that's something that felt it was very relatable for me, and it's one of the things that I want to talk about, because you know how in the beginning, I mean, you mentioned this before, Ben, before we started recording, about in the beginning Evelyn goes to Joy and she's like, sorry, Evelyn, Miss Leo, you're getting fat. Remember that comment in the beginning? Yeah. And I know that comment very well. That comment means I care for you.
Yeah.
I want you to do better by being better. And for me, that means, I'm speaking as my mom right now, for me, that means being an acceptable version of yourself in the society, because when you're accepted, you're safe. And I want you to be safe.
Joy even says that at the start of the film, she says to her girlfriend Becky, she's like, listen, if my mum insults you, it means she likes you.
Yes.
She's not insulting you to be mean. She's insulting you because she cares.
The final scene, she does show her some affection by saying, you should grow your hair out. That's what she says to Becky. There's been a lot of commentary on the internet around how that's a very accurate portrayal of moms and dads and parents more generally in Eastern cultures. And what I want to bring to the table as a different perspective is that this isn't exclusive to Eastern cultures. And I want us to start moving away from generalizing Eastern versus Western, because it's much more nuanced than that. That kind of talk is very prominent in Greek culture as well. So it's much more about the society and the collective and much less about the individual. So for me, like when she went from, you're getting fat to, she said she made some other sort of comment that was also like criticizing her, but it was much softer. So for me, like having that kind of evolution or seeing that as a mom was quite moving for me. And I want very quickly to read a Reddit comment that I found. What I noticed was that her criticism changed tonally, he's referring to the final scene, became less barbed and exuded a non-verbal warmth. From my own lived experience, that subtle safety would have been enough to show me that my parents were working on being more open and improving themselves. Personally, my parents doing what Evelyn did would have gone a long way in my relationship with my parents. That part really hit me in the feels, and I thought, I wish my mom would have done that. So for me, that kind of like 180 you see from Evelyn in the beginning, where she knows she's not showing up as her best version of herself, and it's why she has all of these abilities, right? Because she's the worst version of herself, and she's well aware of that. She's not tied to any specific path in life, which is why she's able to verse jump, right, and just become action movie star Evelyn, like hot dog fingers Evelyn. Like it's exactly that reason. But then
that's not a joke, by the way. There is hot dog fingers Evelyn in the film. That sounds like a joke, but it's not.
It is not a joke. People, like, there's a universe where people have hot dog-like fingers.
And play the piano with their feet.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God. But yeah, in the end, in that final scene, shows that amazing and realistic, in a way, character progression. Because she doesn't go from worst mom of the year to mom of the year. She goes from, this is where I get to try. This is where I get to try and just be here. You're right.
In that kind of confrontation between Evelyn and Joy at the end, that really is all Joy wants, is Joy wants her to try. Because you can't ask someone to completely change. And if she completely changed, she wouldn't be being true to herself. That'd be completely opposite of what the film is trying to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Essentially, at the end of the film, it's Evelyn, the mum, deciding that actually her original universe was absolutely fine and life is what you make of it and it's how you approach it. But I don't know if the film really gave enough reason for how Evelyn came round.
I would say a couple of things stood out for me. The first one is obviously the bagel, the everything bagel.
The everything bagel.
If you remember towards the end, so the bagel essentially, it starts from being an everything bagel where Joy / Jobu, actually, her alter ego in the multiverse, it's where she drops everything, like her hopes, her dreams, her report cards, you name it, like all of it is there. But then, if you remember, the bagel turns into this super massive black hole, not a news reference, super massive black hole. The reveal towards the end is that the purpose of the, black hole, bagel isn't to destroy the universe, isn't to destroy Evelyn, isn't to destroy anyone. But what Jobu wants to do is to destroy herself because he thinks everything is meaningless. And when Evelyn sees that, that was one of the first turning points that got her to think, oh shit, maybe I need to start trying.
And then she reflects on that with her own dad. Like she even says to him, like, why did you let me go? Like the biggest question I have is when I went to move to America with Waymond, why did you let me go? And that's the whole thing. When Joy goes to go away, that's what she's doing. She's doing what her dad didn't do, and saying, "I'm not going to let you go. I don't care." And that's the whole speech that she makes: is, "I don't care how difficult it is. I don't care that we fight. I don't care that maybe life isn't great. That we have this laundromat and it's not everything we thought it would be. And I'm not an action hero or I'm not a hibachi chef. But this version, as you said, Simon, that version of her is the one that she wants." And it's important that she doesn't let that go because that's what makes her happy.
Which is kind of what breaks the intergenerational curse in a way and starts to break the cycle of like being emotionally unavailable and just, a bit of a, dickhead really as a parent. So when that reveal happens where Job is like, well, I actually want to kill myself because everything sucks. Evelyn is trying to see her nihilistic point of view. And then if you remember, she kind of smashes up every universe she's in. You know how she kind of breaks into like 1,000 pieces in a way. And it is at that moment where her husband has that, probably the best scene.
This is the bit where I cried.
I would say that's the epiphany.
I've written the quote down because I think it's probably the most important quote I've heard in the film in a very long time. And that it's, the only thing I do know is that we have to be kind. Please be kind, especially when we don't know what's going on. That is what everyone in the world needs right now. Just that sentence of like, even when you don't know what's going on, it's scary And yeah, you might be confused, but you don't know what everybody else is going through, and just be kind. And that's why, that fight scene on the stairs, all these people want to kill her, but she goes, well, the reason they're angry is this and that. And she is kind to all of them. If a president said that, if Barack Obama had said that when he was running for office, everyone would be like, that's like, yes, we can. That's like this amazing quote. But it's in this mad multiverse film that comes out in the wake of another mad multiverse film. That's when I cried in the cinema. That's when I just lost it. I was like, oh.
Which I feel like this is what Evelyn took from that scene. And then she said, despite everything, I choose to be in this universe. I choose to be here with you, because I feel like at that moment, it was the very first time that she actually took a second to be present, right? And just listen to what her daughter had to say. Because I feel like up until that moment, she was hearing what Joy was saying, but she wasn't listening, which is very different. We still haven't talked about the actual final scene, so let's try to break it down.
We can actually get back to the tax return.
There you go. So the movie ends where it started, right? So at Deidre's office from the Wang family's tax audit, this time Becky, Joy's girlfriend, drops off the family. We see Evelyn showing some affection for her by saying that she should grow her hair out, which I thought was very funny. Inside the building, Wayman heads towards the bathroom before their meeting. Evelyn shows affection to him as well, with a big kiss and a hug. And at Deidre's desk, Evelyn's mind briefly wanders off to another universe before returning to the moment saying, sorry, what did you say again?
Yeah.
And that's when the film ends.
It's interesting because obviously we talked about Doctor Strange in the last one. And actually there's almost like a bit of a comparison between the two ending scenes of, in Doctor Strange, the remnants of using the book of whatever. I can't remember what it's called.
Darkhold.
The Darkhold, yeah. He has the third eye and that's the remnant of that. But then at the end of Everything Everywhere, we see that from that point where she just collides all of her universes to see every kind of one of herselves, there's still that remnant there. So of like, it's still there, there's still annoyingly, it gives the possibility of a sequel, which I really hope there isn't more everywhere all at once, which I don't think they would do. I think it's just lovely that the film ends with her, because that's what happens when they first go to the IRS in kind of the middle of the film. And she's, sorry, what were you saying? And it's just kicks on from that. I thought that was really nice.
That's the perfect way when the opening scene is almost like kind of goes back to the final scene and the other way around. I think that's one of the more beautiful ways of showing character evolution, right? And
growth,
And growth, yeah. And for me, that final line in particular really made me think about the beginning of the film, because I was thinking in the beginning, if you remember, Evelyn was pretending that she was paying attention. She was like, oh yeah, he was paying attention.
He doesn't listen.
Now, like in the end, it's the very first time where she's actually trying to come back to, the moment. It kind of shows the struggle, but also the beauty of keeping yourself grounded and in the moment. And we all know how hard it is, right? To just be in the moment, not getting distracted and just like...
Because the mum's got the world on her shoulders. She's got the stress
she
of her
literally
business.
she could wander off to another multiverse. And like I feel like if you think about it, we all have multiverses in our minds, don't we? Sometimes we just come up with versions of ourselves
just
don't exist.
Daydream about what would happen if I did this, or what would have happened, what my life looked like if I did that.
Yes.
Or why did I say that? Or
yeah,
you were saying, Sophie, about like moving from Greece. There's probably loads of points in everyone's lives. We maybe if people can message in to let us know, like if they ever think about that, like I always think about it, if like I had a chance to go to university in Scotland when I was like 20 and I just didn't do it, and I'm like, what would like life look like if I had done that, or if I had done this?
Even the landing isn't perfect, because it's not like the final scenes is like, oh yeah, I'm fully present, I'm mindful Jedi now. It's like it's
still imperfect.
It's still imperfect. It shows you that it's the very first time that she's putting in the effort. It's the very first time she's engaged. It's awkward. I mean, all of us are trying.
It goes back to what you said of like, she's not mum of the year.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
She's trying. Like, it just harks back to that thing of, well, she's never going to change. There's still elements of Evelyn that are always going to be there. She might drift off every now and again, but she's trying.
Oh, and speaking of mindfulness, I started rereading one of the most popular books in Buddhism readings from Pema Chodron's is like quite big in that space. When Things Fall Apart, it's your book, and there is this line in the book that says, "Just where you are, that's where you start," which is like it took me back to that film. As in, just think of the now, and just try every single moment to just stay like. Us three right now, we are in my kitchen, we're doing this podcast as opposed to just drifting away, thinking about like episode 6. No, let's try to like talk about Evelyn right now. That kind of meta feeling of struggle, of being in the moment, which is hard. I get it. One of the things that I want to talk about is the tone of the final scene. So we can see that in the end, the tone of the film has changed. Everyone feels and looks more calm. And one can argue that, you know, the resolution wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for Waymond. And I know, like Ben, as you said, you have strong feelings about him in particular, but
I think he deserves an. I mean, I think they all deserve Oscars because the performances in the film are fantastic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you think of his character in particular, you have Evelyn and Joy that have used cynicism, pessimism, even depression to cope with life, but he chose kindness and understanding every step of the way. What did you make of his character?
I think one of the reasons why I kind of felt so emotional when he talked about that is because how hard that is, and how you kind of try and put yourself in his shoes, because he gets shit throughout the movie up until that point, especially that version of Waymond takes the abuse and like is kind of there for the beating in a way. And then when he says that, you realize it's like, well, I put myself in that position because that's his superpower, you know. Yeah. That's the, like, I think he even says that. He's like, that's my power. This is what I do.
But you don't know how happy he really is. Well, he doesn't really give away much. He just kind of puts a smile on everything and stoically powers through.
I don't think he's using kindness as an avoidance, you know, coping mechanism. I think he's choosing kindness, which I feel like the entire film is about choice.
You know, when he speaks to Jamie Lee Curtis's character, is like, you know, you just don't know what's going on. You know, be kind to people because you don't know you don't know what their circumstances are. And I guess, you know, Evelyn's whole journey is to actually be able to open up to both of them in a way, to be able to have that connection that made her want to leave with him and go to America and. Or, you know, not as we see in her, you know.
Yeah, maybe she resents him for encouraging her to make that decision, and it's not fulfilled her in the way that he promised her it would.
Yeah, that's part of it, for sure. Yeah. And I think in the beginning, we are witnessing the dissolution of the marriage, right? Like, we see them at their worst period, like, as we, and then
it's at a tipping
it's almost
point.
Like it works in reverse, where, you know, the more the film progresses, the better the relationship gets in a way, because of the things and, you know, how they kind of.
But I mean, it seems her turning point really is when she sees herself in the universe where she is Michelle Yeoh, really, because actually there's a brilliant scene where when she first goes into that universe, we see lots of clips from her life, and it's just all like press footage of Michelle Yeoh's career, which I thought was really cool. There's like, I think there's like footage of her in like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and stuff, which I thought was brilliant. But in that universe where she's not with him, and that confrontation that they have in the alleyway, that makes her kind of, that's where she kind of clicks and realizes of actually like, because she does say to him when she comes back from that universe, like, oh, I could have been, you know, she talks about, I could have been this if, you know, if I hadn't gone with you, and I would have been able to be that. But then again, you know, it's almost like that's the tipping point of the film, of she gets to that point where she thinks, you know, the film is on this upward trajectory of like, oh, fucking hell, there's all these different amazing places where I could have been and I could have done. And then the movie ends kind of in the middle. Like, you get a credit roll in the middle of the film, and then it turns, and then it starts going back in the direction of her going, yeah, but of course, there are all of these other universes out there, but just because they look brilliant because of the scenario that I'm in, but they're not necessarily the happiest. And, you know, a universe where I'm not with Waymond maybe isn't the best thing in the world because I don't have joy and I don't have, you know, the rest of these amazing things. To me, it feels like there's that nice tipping point in the middle. Like, the film arcs really nicely.
But actually, at the end of the film, she's saying maybe we should not be together. You know, we bring out the worst in each other.
I found that scene a bit, I don't say problematic, but I don't think it worked very well. Like that scene in the car park outside of the laundromat.
Yeah, where they're shouting at one another.
Yeah, because I feel like the end of the scene was amazing, but the beginning was a bit awkward. You're right, because Joy's like, actually, we're a bit toxic for each other. So I feel like I should take a break and just
you have
deep
that,
out.
as you say, Ben, you have that arc where you think there's going to be this resolution, and suddenly, actually, they're going to say the opposite.
I agree. And then Evelyn's like, yeah, but I could be anywhere right now, but I choose to be with you. And then Joy's like, okay, cool, let's give it a go. So I thought the dialogue there was a bit awkward. I agree with you.
Maybe they needed that as an into the final scene to have the resolution.
That scene was needed. What I felt like was probably unnecessary was Joy saying, well, we're a bit toxic for each other.
Maybe it's about the mum misinterpreting all the lessons that she's learned. And at first she's like, all of this means that actually I'm bad for my daughter, and the best thing I can do for her is to not be with her because I'm making her miserable.
Well, because she lets her get in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't forget that.
Yes.
She lets her get in the car,
Yeah.
and then she goes, and that's when she talks about, it kind of comes back to her thing of, my dad let me go, I'm not going to let you go.
Yeah. And then they get into the proper discussion of how they can actually coexist and be more supportive of each other.
And I think that's the bit where you're talking about where, like, you know, Weymouth almost interrupts and she's like, no, let her finish. Because it's really important for Evelyn, for Joy to get that out.
Wayman thinks that Evelyn's just being harsh again on Joy.
Yeah.
And actually, Joy wants to hear it.
And they need to hear it. It's almost like, you know, tension builds up with someone you love and you're like, I just love you, but let's just shout at one another for like 5 minutes, and then you just always get all the steam out, and they kind of get all of that out, and they just air all the dirty laundry there,
Yeah,
in front of the laundromat car park.
Which only makes it more important to go back to the point of one, kindness, but also how it manifests in the context of a mother and daughter relationship. Because for the most part, not just daughters, but if we were speaking about Joy, kids mostly want to be seen, and in extension to that, they want to be accepted, right? So when Evelyn says, my love for you is unconditional, because at the end of the day, I could be anywhere, I could be in any multiverse right now, and I could choose any other version of you, but actually I choose to be the one that's right here, that's in front of me. So you don't have to be any other version of yourself. It's what gives Joy permission to actually live her life and pursue the relationship with, you know, her girlfriend. And also, you know, we had that, you know, a bit of a funny scene where Evelyn goes to her dad. And
that's brilliant.
It was the first time that she actually accepted and supported her daughter of being queer, right? And in front of her dad. That was the moment where she kind of broke that intergenerational, you know.
Well, because again, and that goes back to the first scene where Joy introduces Becky to her granddad, and Joy's Chinese isn't great anymore, and he says, every time I see you, it gets worse, and she can't remember the word for girlfriend. And Evelyn interrupts and says, this is Becky, Joy's good friend.
Yes.
And then at the end of the film, Evelyn interrupts and goes, this is Becky is Joy's girlfriend.
Yes. Okay. I think we saw the ending, you guys.
I think so.
I do want to ask one final question, which I kind of asked you before, like before we start recording. I know it's a difficult one, but I think it's gonna mean a lot to our listeners. So, assume you can create a bagel yourselves.
Oh shit.
Where you can add your hopes, your dreams, your regrets, your fears, your anything, your trophies. What would you put in it?
It's probably a pizza bagel, but that's neither here nor there.
What are the toppings?
The toppings are 2 college dropouts, my relationship, a move to the UK, even moving to the UK, more so my relationship with being like Irish and how Ireland has been. Like Ireland's definitely on the bagel. So there's a bit of green dashed in there somewhere. An emotional bagel, I would say, as well.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
sure.
It's quite, some stuff that I won't mention.
Keep it a little bit private.
Keep it a little bit lighthearted, and then mozzarella, pepperoni, and
good.
I think mine would have some Nutella, some banana pennies.
Nutella and banana pennies on a bagel.
Some 90s movies like Home Alone and Uncle Buck.
Oh, spicy.
Oh yeah, really edgy stuff. Lots of music, lots of rave culture.
I was gonna say, that is has always been such a big part of your life, music.
Yeah.
Naughty raves.
Naughty raves.
Well, I feel like my bagel has been influenced by the film, because as I told you earlier, the first thing that came to mind is being a good daughter. So I feel like it shows very clearly how I was raised and, what are the things that come to mind first. So like, I'm a good daughter.
But you can't just say that without defining what that means to you.
Good daughter to me means making my parents proud, I feel like. My decision to move to London has been a big one, very life-defining in a way. My writings, I would say, my healing, my imperfections, my femininity. I don't know. The patience of my friends.
Your bagel's more conceptual than mine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna say the last thing that goes in my bagel. My high school crush, who I got to hook up with about a decade later. That happened.
Who listens to this podcast, and if you're out there,
I don't think you are. But that happened a few years ago. But it definitely goes to my bagel because it's such a big win. So
it's a big win.
It's a big win. It's a win. It's like
deliver?
Yeah. It's one of the things you're like, this is a trophy. Like I can just put it in the shelf. Just like, tick. Bucket list kind of thing. Go to my bagel. Yeah. Because like the bagel is not necessarily bad.
No, it's good. Well, the bagel's good, bad, and everything, isn't it?
It's good, bad. Yeah, it's like everything that the part of you have changed your life. I mean, so he didn't change my life, but I feel like it did change the life of the 15-year-old me that crafted him.
I thought you were going to say, I feel like it did change his life.
Yeah, I thought that was where that was going. So I was like, didn't change mine, but my God, he's not been the same since.
He hasn't been the same since.
He won't leave me alone.
Imagine if he's listening. So funny. I hope he's not. Neighbor. Cool. So I think this is it, guys. The next final scene we will be talking about is from Top Gun Maverick. I have to say,
we're taking the highway to the danger zone.
Tommy boy.
Big toot.
Some masculine guitars.
I can't wait. If the shredding in Doctor Strange was bad enough, I can't wait for some masculine Top Gun guitar.
How homoerotic is it going to be?
Man, if you've seen Miles Teller's mustache looks.
Ooh. I have to say, I felt that. The score is amazing. You should listen to it. I mean, you can. I mean, you will.
What, of the
score?
The new one?
No, yeah, the new one. I didn't like the first one, so I'm just going to go on record and say that. But yeah, I am hearing that Maverick is really, really good. So looking forward to seeing it. And yeah, talking about the final scene with you too.
Pretty good.
Also, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, right? Wherever you're listening. And if you loved our final scene breakdown or Ben's hot takes, please rate and review that final scene on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Seriously, just do it. It only takes a second. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with Tommy Boy in a couple of weeks. Goodbye.
Did you like it? Did you like that?
Did I like it? I loved it.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.